Members of the Proxima Collective High Council, I address you now as High Commander Zexel. What I am about to share is both an admission of our hubris and a dire warning for the future. This testimony must be preserved in our archives as a lesson to all who come after us. Activate the holo displays. Focus your gaze on the small, unremarkable blue sphere, Earth. Yes, the same planet we dismissed so easily half a century ago. I still recall the words of Grand Scientist VC Noor during our first assessment. A primitive species, he declared, standing in this very chamber. His tentacles gestured with confidence as he outlined his findings. They barely reach their own satellite. Their engines rely on combustion. Combustion, the chamber echoed with laughter at the absurdity. But as I listened to that laughter, I saw something troubling, something that should have caught our attention. Their technology may have seemed crude, but their pace of advancement was extraordinary. What took our kind millennia to achieve, they managed in a fraction of the time. Observe the progression on these displays. This grainy image depicts Dr. Eleanor Nash. Though she preferred the simple name Elle, look closely at her expression as she presents her propulsion design to our Science Council 3 cycles ago. Do you see it? The fire in her eyes? We mistook it for ambition. It was something far more dangerous. You've overlooked 3 fundamental principles of quantum mechanics, VC Noor told her, his tone dripping with amusement. Perhaps you should refine your combustion engines before aspiring to such heights. Again, the room erupted in laughter. And again, we failed to notice her response. Study her carefully in this next recording. See how she remains composed, how she gathers her materials with deliberate calm. That slight curve of her lips, it was no smile of defeat. It was something sharper, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. I have revisited this footage countless times. The evidence was there, plain as starlight, yet we ignored it. Freeze the display. Focus on her eyes. That moment, members of the council, was when our downfall began. That was when we turned a brilliant mind's curiosity into quiet determination. Your arrogance will be your undoing, Commander, she told me later. I had approached her to smooth things over, to apologize for Noor's behavior. Her response was unervingly calm. But don't worry, she added, patting my carapace as if I were an unruly child. You'll come to regret it. At the time, I dismissed her words as frustration. How could a single human disrupt the might of the Proxima Collective? What harm could one species, bound by its rudimentary technology, cause to an empire as advanced as ours? The answer, my esteemed colleagues, is more terrifying than I could have imagined. Before I reveal the full scope of our error, you must understand something fundamental about humanity, a truth we overlooked entirely. When pressed to their limits, when scorned and belittled, humans do not falter. They do not resign themselves to their shortcomings. No, they innovate. And Dr. Eleanor Nash? She was already the most inventive mind of her kind. We simply gave her the fuel to prove it. Bring up the next set of holo recordings. What you are about to see marks the moment a single human's defiance began dismantling the greatest empire in the galaxy. The laughter, I assure you, did not last much longer. Load the footage from the Grand Scientific Exhibition, date stamp 47392. Yes, that day, the turning point, our esteemed Science Council had assembled a Technology Assessment Summit, an event thinly veiled as a demonstration of superiority designed to belittle humanity's progress. Redirect the audio to the main speakers. Listen closely as VC Noor's voice echoes across the hall, his tone dripping with condescension, his scales glinting with triumph. We will now evaluate the latest human attempt at advancement, he declares. Dr. Nash, kindly present your, what was it called? Quantum fold drive. Watch her enter the stage, her steps deliberate, her posture unyielding. 5,000 of the galaxy's most brilliant scientific minds filled the grand hall of knowledge on Proxima Prime, yet not one regarded her with respect. The quantum fold drive, she begins, her voice calm and measured despite the sneers and murmurs, redefines space travel by manipulating space-time at the quantum level, enabling, pardon me, Dr. Nash, interrupts Science Minister YX Tier, a tentacle raised in mock curiosity. Are you implying that your species, still reliant on silicon-based processors, has somehow achieved quantum manipulation? The recording zooms in on her face at this moment. Note the subtle shift in her expression, the narrowing of her eyes, the tightening of her jaw. Our research and preliminary trials indicate she attempts to continue. Research, VC Noor interjects, his tone heavy with derision, sparking a ripple of laughter through the crowd. Shall we examine this so-called research? Perhaps a demonstration of how human calculations fall short of basic quantum standards. Then came the act that set everything in motion. VC Noor snatches her data tablet, projects her equations onto the grand holo display, and begins highlighting them in vivid red, as though scolding an unruly unruly student. Here, and oh, this is extraordinary, he sneers. Errors upon errors. Fundamental gaps in understanding. Did you truly believe these approximations could circumvent the Zaxtol principle of quantum conservation? The recording captures El Nash standing motionless as VC Nor spends the next 20 minutes dissecting her life's work with ruthless precision. He even dredges up her earlier designs, outdated projects she created when humanity was still trying to comprehend our technology. Each one scrutinized, mocked, discarded. And then it happens. This moment. Focus on her now. Perhaps, she says, her voice slicing through the residual laughter like a blade. The Zaxtol principle itself is flawed. The room falls silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy, as if the entire chamber had been struck dumb by her audacity. 5,000 alien scientists sit frozen, grappling with the sheer insolence of a human daring to challenge a cornerstone of quantum physics, validated by 12 species over 20,000 cycles. VC Norse scales pale, shifting to a sickly green hue, a visible sign of his fury. You dare? You dare question a principle that underpins our understanding of quantum mechanics? On what basis? Your species' intuition? El Nash responds with a smile, but it's not the friendly gesture humans often display. No, this is something else entirely, a calculated, predatory expression. It is the look of someone who knows exactly what they are about to do. Something about her words should have sent us fleeing to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Because you're so certain it's impossible, she said, her voice unshaken. None of you have ever bothered to truly test it. What followed was chaos. The uproar in the chamber was unlike anything in the history of the Science Council. Cries to remove her from the stage, demands to revoke Earth's membership in the galactic scientific community. The recording shows VC Nor, his scales darkening with rage, shouting as his assistants struggle to hold him back. Remove this insolent human, he screeches. Let her removal stand as a warning to all primitives who dare meddle with forces beyond their grasp. And yet, El Nash did not flee. She did not falter. Watch her in the recording. She steps down from the stage, her movements calm and deliberate. At the exit, she pauses, turning back to survey the chaos she left behind. Pay close attention to that slight nod, the one she gives as if confirming something only she understood. That, my fellow council members, was the moment our downfall began. Within a week, Earth formally withdrew from the galactic scientific community. Within a month, their borders were sealed to all alien scientific delegations. The announcement, carried through diplomatic channels, cited the need for independent research. We celebrated, of course. Oh, how we reveled in our so-called triumph. The humans are sulking, VC Nor declared at the victory feast. Let them tinker in isolation with their antiquated technology. The Science Council even commissioned a monument, a holographic projection of El Nash's flawed equations, suspended above the Grand Hall of Knowledge's entrance. A testament, they called it, to the folly of youth and the wisdom of experience. But what none of us realized was that this monument would one day stand as the ultimate symbol of our arrogance. You see, we misunderstood something fundamental about humanity. They do not accept defeat as permanent. They do not revere established authority. And they never, ever forget an insult. While we congratulated ourselves on putting Earth in its place, we had unwittingly set the stage for the most extraordinary retaliation in galactic history. El Nash, she wasn't finished. She was just beginning. Pull up the incident logs spanning Earth years 2157 to 2159. Yes, the unedited versions. The anomalies began subtly, almost imperceptibly. The first was reported aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Glory during a routine patrol near the Centaur border. All quantum navigation systems experienced simultaneous failures, what engineers later described as a hiccup, a minor calibration issue, they said. VC Nor himself conducted an inspection and found no errors. But the anomalies persisted. Over the following months, more ships reported similar disruptions, always near human-controlled space. Each incident affected our most advanced vessels, yet our diagnostics revealed nothing. Now, display the maintenance logs. See the common thread? Every affected ship had received a routine software update from Central Command. An update that passed through 73 layers of security screening. An update that, as we would later discover, contained a single, untraceable line of code. A line that should not have been possible. But that revelation came much later. 6 months after the first anomalies, our scouts reported something far more troubling. Bring up recording T779. Focus on the human cargo vessel in the feed. At first glance, it appears unremarkable, but look closely at its engine signature. Notice the steady pulse? Human combustion engines never pulsed like that. They never did. Probably stolen technology. VC Nor dismissed when I brought the findings to his attention. Humans have always been adept at mimicking the work of others, but this time they hadn't stolen anything. What we were witnessing was no mere imitation, it was innovation, and it broke every rule we thought was immutable. Switch to intelligence, report GL2158X. This is where the situation shifted from concerning to outright alarming. Dr. Eleanor Nash had disappeared, not in some dramatic or suspicious fashion, but quietly, almost imperceptibly. She stopped making public appearances. Her social media accounts went dormant. Her research lab at the Earth Institute of Technology listed her as on sabbatical, probably licking her wounds. VC nor scoffed during a council meeting, prompting another round of laughter. Always the laughter, but our intelligence operatives painted a far different picture. Cycle through the surveillance photos. Here, a grainy image reveals a massive complex under construction in the Australian outback. Officially, it was registered as a solar farm, but thermal scans told another story. The energy readings from this site defied all known patterns, their intensity and structure unlike anything we'd ever encountered. Now, examine these blueprints smuggled from a Martian orbital facility. In the lower corner, note the engineering signature, L. Nash. The date, just 3 months after her so-called humiliation at the Science Council. She wasn't hiding, she was building. But what truly unsettled me, what kept me awake during the quiet hours of my rotation, was the silence. Human space, once so chaotic and noisy, had gone eerily quiet. Communications traffic dropped by 60%. Civilian vessels began charting longer, less efficient routes, deliberately avoiding proximity to our main trade lanes. And their military ships, they didn't act provocatively, but they were there, always present, always watching. Then came the rumors. Intelligence Report Series K. A janitor on a station near Alpha Centauri claimed he saw a human vessel appear out of nowhere. Not from hyperspace, not uncloaking, just appearing. Station sensors reported nothing unusual, so the story was dismissed as the ramblings of an overworked laborer. A week later, on a mining colony in the Outer Rim, quantum analyzers recorded a massive energy surge. The colony's telescopes turned to investigate, but nothing was visible. Yet, for a fraction of a second, the instruments detected energy patterns that defied every established principle of physics. Play the intercepted transmission from the Proxima Defense Network. Ace, this is Outpost 7. We're tracking something, configuration unknown. It appeared on our scopes about 3 minutes ago, moving at, wait, that can't be right, recalibrating. BS, are you seeing this? It's moving like it's not moving at all. The recording ends abruptly, replaced by static. When we sent a ship to investigate, Outpost 7 appeared perfectly normal. The crew remembered nothing of the event. No logs, no tampering, no sign of external interference. But there was something, a faint trace, buried deep within their systems. Display the diagnostic report. Focus here on the quantum processors. A microscopic alteration so subtle that it evaded nearly all standard scans. This modification, by all accounts, should not have been possible. The signature embedded within it, the same one we later found buried in the navigation systems of our most advanced ships. The same one traced back to that seemingly routine software update. The signature unmistakably matched the coding style of one individual, Dr. Eleanor Nash. The impossible, VC nor scoffed when I presented these findings. Completely impossible. The humans cannot have achieved this. The Zaxtol principle. But as he ranted, I remembered something. L. Nash's words from that fateful day at the Science Council. Words we had laughed off as human arrogance. Asterisk, perhaps the Zaxtol principle itself is flawed. Asterisk, switch to my personal log. Date stamp 25,931.15. I now believe we have made a grave error. We did not merely insult a human engineer, we challenged her. And she did what we thought impossible. She didn't just prove us wrong. She proved herself right. The signs were there, clear and undeniable. Yet, we dismissed them because they contradicted everything we held as truth. Humans, however, had stopped trying to convince us. They had moved beyond seeking validation. Far, far beyond. And we were about to see just how far. Play the emergency session recording. Imperial High Command. Earth date 25,971.15. Look at us seated around that table. Confusion etched on every face. Disbelief giving way to creeping dread as Admiral Kira Patel's transmission appeared on the main screen. Greetings, Proxima Collective, she began, her tone measured and composed. We trust this message finds you well. By now, your border patrols have likely noticed our fleet. Or rather, they've noticed what we wanted them to notice. The camera panned across what appeared to be a standard human battle group. 12 ships, conventional configurations. Nothing Nothing noteworthy, at least not at first glance. Magnify Sector 7, VC nor commanded in the recording. That's when we saw it. The engine signatures. They weren't just unusual, they were fundamentally different. Display the sensor logs from that day. Notice the readings? Each vessel exhibited energy patterns existing in multiple states simultaneously. Our quantum scanners attempted to process the data and promptly crashed. When rebooted, they crashed again. By now, Admiral Patel continued, her voice calm but cutting, your scientists are undoubtedly puzzled. Good. Consider this a small demonstration of what Dr. Nash calls quantum superposition drive technology. Would you care to elaborate? The transmission split, and there she was, Dr. Eleanor Nash. She stood in a sleek, futuristic facility, her expression calm but unyielding. Behind her, a holographic display projected a series of equations. Remember these? She asked, gesturing to the familiar formulas floating beside her. The ones you dismissed? The ones VC nor so gleefully marked in red 2 years ago. She tilted her head slightly, that same chilling smile curling her lips. Funny thing about principles. They're only valid until someone disproves them. The camera captured the moment perfectly. VC Nor's scales turned a sickly pale hue, his tentacles curling inward with visible anxiety. The Zaxtol principle, Nash began, her voice steady and clear, assumes that quantum states must collapse when observed. But what if they didn't? What if we could maintain superposition? What if we could extend it beyond the quantum level to the macro level? She stepped aside, letting the equations take center stage. What if a ship could exist in multiple states at once? Here and there, moving and stationary, present and absent. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. The mathematics you mocked don't violate the Zaxtol principle, she said, her voice gaining a sharper edge. They transcend it. Now switch to the tactical overlay from that day. Watch closely. The human fleet began to move. No hyperspace jumps, no cloaking devices. They simply shifted. Ships that had been in one position now existed in two, then three, then more. Their fleet seemed to defy the very fabric of reality, their positions no longer bound by any rules we understood. The transmission continued, but Admiral Patel's voice now carried an unmistakable edge of warning. This is not an act of aggression. Not yet. Consider it a demonstration of what happens when you dismiss us as primitive. When you insult our capabilities and mock our potential. El Nash's voice returned, colder than before. You called us primitives. You laughed at our equations. You believed we couldn't understand your rules. You were right. We didn't understand your rules. Her smile widened. So we made our own. That was the moment we realized. The humans weren't just challenging us. They were rewriting the game, and we were playing by their rules now. Then they exist somewhere else. No transition, no movement. Reality itself seems to stutter around them. Impossible. VC nor whispers in the recording, his voice trembling. The energy requirements alone? Oh yes, Nash interrupts, as if responding directly to him across the void of space. The energy requirements. Did you know that maintaining a quantum superposition state for an object of this scale should require more energy than an entire star system produces? It should. But what if the power requirements themselves existed in a superposition state? Switch to the external cameras. Show them what happened next. Our grand defense fleet, the pride of the Proxima Collective, suddenly finds itself surrounded. Human ships materialize at multiple points simultaneously, seemingly out of thin air. Our advanced targeting systems, renowned across the galaxy, fail to lock on. The targets exist in too many places at once, defying the very logic upon which the systems operate. The glitches in your systems, Nash continues, her tone laced with both calm and menace, were just a proof of concept. A small demonstration to show you that your fundamental assumptions about reality are incomplete. Display the tactical readouts. Our quantum computers, the pinnacle of galactic engineering, begin to fail, not due to sabotage or any discernible attack, but simply because the presence of the human fleet violates the principles upon which they were designed to function. We didn't hack your systems, Nash explains, her smile growing sharper. We didn't need to. We merely exposed them to something their frameworks were never designed to comprehend. Think of it as trying to divide by zero on a quantum scale. The recording captures VC nor trying to respond, but his words falter, his scales now a ghostly white. Admiral Patel's voice cuts through before he can regain composure. Now, about the new balance of power in this region, Patel says, her tone even almost clinical. The ships you see disrupting your fleet, these are not our most advanced vessels. Not even close. These are what we call beta tests, proof of concept models. Switch to my personal command log. Recorded moments later, my voice trembles as I speak. The humans, I say, barely able to process what I am witnessing. They were never trying to catch up to us. They weren't even playing the same game. While we celebrated our superiority, they quietly built something unimaginable. Emergency alarms blare, interrupting the log entry. Display the source. 500 human ships materialize across Proxima space. Each one exists in multiple quantum states, rendering our defense systems, our galaxy's most sophisticated technology, entirely useless. But even this is not the worst of it. Show them the final transmission. El Nash appears on screen once more, now standing on what is unmistakably the bridge of a ship. Behind her, through the viewport, is a void, a complete absence of light, matter, and even comprehension, a space where the rules of the universe appear to unravel. That ship you can't quite perceive? Nash says, her voice devoid of triumph or malice. Instead, it carries a chilling calm, a quiet authority. This is what happens when you stop worrying about what's possible and start asking what's potential. She steps aside, revealing more of the void. The space behind her isn't empty. It's something else entirely, something that bends the mind simply to witness. We call it the Uncertainty Engine, the first of its kind. A ship that doesn't just exist in multiple states, it rewrites the very fabric of reality around it. Would you like to see what it can do? The transmission ends, and then, across all of Proxima space, every quantum-based system simply stops. Not crashes, not malfunctions, stops as though, for one terrifying moment, the laws of physics that govern their operation had ceased to exist. We had no choice but to listen to what followed. But that, my fellow council members, is a nightmare for the next part of this briefing. For now, let us continue with the historical record. Resume playback. Timestamped. The event we now call the Hour of Humbling, the Uncertainty Engine loomed in space, an aberration against the backdrop of stars. Our sensors flailed, unable to agree on its dimensions. Was it 1 kilometer long or 1,000? Was it composed of matter, energy, or something else entirely? Did it exist in this dimension or some other? Your quantum systems are temporarily suspended. Nash's voice echoed through every communication channel at once. Calm, unyielding. Do not worry, this is only temporary. Consider it a courtesy call. Display the Imperial Science Council chamber feed. Look there, VC Nor, scales drained of all color, sitting amidst the same scientists who had mocked humanity's technology 2 years earlier. Their smirks were gone, replaced by wide-eyed dread. You see, Nash continued, pacing on the bridge of her ship, we could have chosen a more dramatic entrance. We could have appeared above your homeworld and demonstrated our capabilities through brute force. But that would be uncivilized. Instead, I'll offer you a practical demonstration of what humans do when you tell them something is impossible. The Uncertainty Engine pulsed, not with light or energy, but with possibility, and with that pulse, chaos unfolded across the Proxima Collective. Suddenly, every quantum-locked vault in the Imperial archives sprang open simultaneously. Top-secret research files, encrypted for centuries, appeared on public networks, accessible to anyone. Every covert project, every classified document, every hidden scandal was laid bare. Quantum security, Nash said, her tone tinged with amusement. A brilliant concept, unbreakable according to the Zaxtol principle. But when you can manipulate quantum states directly, well, switch to VC North's private quarters feed. Look at his face as his terminal begins displaying every dismissive report he ever wrote about human technology, every mocking critique, every snide rejection. He sits frozen, tentacles limp, as his own words condemn him. Your encryption doesn't fail because we broke it, Nash explained. It fails because we can temporarily suspend the physical laws that make it work. It's not hacking. It's pressing pause on reality itself. Display the military response. The greatest fleet in Proxima history, 10,000 ships stationed in defensive formation around Proxima Prime. A force unmatched across the galaxy. Reduced to irrelevance. Quantum drives refused to engage. Targeting systems froze, unable to comprehend targets existing in flux. Shields flickered and failed as the underlying physics that powered them ceased to function. We call it localized reality modification, Nash continued. She gestured toward a holographic display. The equations she had presented 2 years ago now refined into something that defied comprehension. The quantum state of space becomes fluid, malleable. Your technology doesn't fail because we destroy it. It fails because the assumptions it's built on temporarily stop being true. The feed shifted to Admiral Patel, standing on her own bridge, her expression as calm as her words were cutting. You have 1 hour to convene the Imperial Science Council for an emergency session, Patel declared. Dr. Nash has prepared a presentation. I assure you, none of you will want to miss it. Exactly 1 hour later, the Grand Hall of Knowledge. Display internal feed. El Nash walked onto the same stage where, 2 years earlier, she had been publicly humiliated. period. Above the entrance, the holographic display of her so-called flawed equations still rotated, a monument to the collective's arrogance. Now, those equations were no longer flawed. They were the foundation of a new reality. Nash stood in the spotlight, her presence commanding, her gaze unyielding. The stage was hers, and this time no one dared laugh. Distinguished members of the Science Council, L. Nash begins, her voice steady, devoid of the hesitation she displayed 2 years ago. Today's lecture will focus on the practical applications of quantum superposition theory in macroscale engineering. Or, to put it simply, why you should never tell a human engineer that something is impossible. The chamber shifts uneasily. VC nor tries to salvage his authority, raising a tentacle in protest. Dr. Nash, surely we can approach this as reasonable. Reasonable? She interrupts, her tone sharp and cutting. Like how you discussed my theory. No, today you listen. Today you learn. Because while you were busy mocking us, certain of your superiority, we did what humans always do. We got creative. Above the chamber, a holographic representation of the uncertainty engine materializes. Its impossible geometry bends and twists reality in ways that make several council members visibly nauseous. This vessel defies 17 physical laws you deemed unbreakable, Nash says, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces before her. It violates 23 principles you believed were fundamental. And yes, she pauses, locking eyes with VC Noor. It completely disproves the Zaxtol principle. A tense silence fills the room as she leans forward. Would you like me to mark in red all the places where your understanding of quantum mechanics failed? That silence? It was the sound of 10,000 years of unchallenged scientific arrogance crumbling. But here is the truly fascinating part. Nash continues, her voice softening as she steps into the role of educator. Once you accept that quantum superposition can be sustained at a macro scale, once you stop confining yourself to what you think is possible, the universe itself becomes pliable. Display the classified footage from testing ground zero. The chamber watches in horror and awe as a human ship phases seamlessly through a solid planet. Another creates a temporary void where the known laws of physics cease to apply. A third generates a distortion field that turns probability itself into a weapon. Your empire is not in immediate danger, Nash assures the trembling council. We have no interest in conquest, but your monopoly on advanced technology, your status as the galaxy's scientific authority, that ends today. She turns back to VC Noor, her professional mask slipping just slightly, her voice carrying an edge of personal satisfaction. You once asked how a species still reliant on silicon-based computing could understand quantum mechanics. The answer is simple. We did not let our assumptions confine our imagination. We did not allow your principles to dictate our possibilities. Above the chamber's entrance, the holographic display of her flawed equations flickers, then shifts. The new equations appear, shimmering with an elegance that makes VC Noor faint on the spot. These, Nash declares, gesturing to the display, are the real equations, the complete framework for quantum superposition at the macro scale. We will publish them freely across the galaxy as our contribution to the scientific community. Finally, display the last image. The once proud Imperial Science Council, hailed as the galaxy's greatest collection of minds, sits in stunned silence as Dr. Eleanor Nash delivers a 3-hour lecture. Her words systematically dismantle their understanding of reality while illuminating the extraordinary advancements humanity has achieved. Because that, members of this council, was humanity's true victory. It wasn't the technology, the ships, or even the uncertainty engine. The true victory was forcing them to listen. And now, here we stand, 5 cycles after what humanity calls the quantum revolution, display the current galactic status report. The Proxima Collective still exists, but no longer as the unchallenged ruler of known space. Our mighty empire has transformed into something else, something better. VC Noor resigned from the Science Council the day after Nash's lecture. Last I heard, he petitioned to study at the Earth Institute of Technology. His request was granted, with one condition: he must take introductory physics alongside first-year human students. The once restricted quantum libraries of Proxima Prime have been opened to the public. For the first time in millennia, the collective is no longer a stagnant power clinging to old certainties. We have been forced to grow, to adapt, to evolve. And the humans? They achieved what no species ever had. They changed the galaxy without firing a single shot. The classified research vaults remain open, their contents now shared freely. A new generation of scientists, Proximan, human, and every other species once deemed primitive, work side by side, unshackled by the arrogance that blinded us for so long. Bring up the latest images from the Galactic Science Academy. There, you can see humans teaching Proximan younglings the fundamentals of quantum mechanics. Proxima engineers collaborate with human scientists on groundbreaking applications of superposition theory. Species once dismissed as inferior now stand as equals in the unending pursuit of knowledge. Your greatest weakness, L. Nash told me during our final meeting, wasn't your technology. It was your certainty. You were so sure you knew everything that you stopped looking for new answers. Display footage from the New Discovery Convention held last cycle. There she stands, presenting alongside a mixed team of human and alien scientists. The room is filled with beings from across the galaxy, all united by their curiosity and desire to learn. No derision, no dismissal, only shared wonder at what might still be possible. The universe, she says in the recording, doesn't care about our principles or our assumptions. It doesn't limit itself to what we think is possible. The moment you believe you've figured everything out is the moment you stop growing. Pull up the construction feeds from Earth's orbit. The uncertainty engine, once a symbol of human defiance, now stands as a museum piece, a testament to what happens when pride meets human ingenuity. Its successors, built through interspecies collaboration, dwarf it in capability, making it look almost quaint by comparison. But more importantly, display the educational statistics. Applications to human universities have surged by 10,000%. Every species now clamors to understand how humans think, not because their technology is inherently superior, but because of how they approach problems. In my final report as High Commander, I wrote, the humans never saw our technology as intimidating. They saw it as a challenge. While we told them what they couldn't do, they asked, why not? While we built walls of theory and principle, they found ways to climb over or walk around them. Now, display the new Galactic Scientific Charter. Article 1 *, no theory, no matter how established, shall be considered beyond question. Article 2 *, no species, no matter how primitive their current technology, shall be dismissed as incapable of advancement. Article 3 *, the phrase, it is impossible, is hereby banned from all scientific discourse. They call it the Nash Doctrine, but perhaps most telling is the sign now displayed in every research facility across known space. The universe does not care what you think is impossible. Final log entry, please. I, High Commander Zexel, hereby conclude this official record of the events leading to the quantum revolution. Let it stand as a lesson for future generations of the Proxima Collective. Our greatest defeat did not come from weapons or overwhelming force. It came from underestimating the resolve of a single human engineer determined to prove us wrong. If there is one lesson to take from this record, let it be this: never tell a human something is impossible. They take it personally. End recording. What's that? No, I'm not retiring entirely. The humans offered me a teaching position at their academy, a course on interspecies relations and the dangers of cultural arrogance. The first lecture, how a bunch of primates with combustion engines rewrote the laws of physics just because someone told them they couldn't. Now that is a story worth telling. Historical record archive status sealed. Until the next species dares to tell humans something is impossible. May whatever gods they believe in have mercy on their souls.